The world of My Hero Academia is chock full of insane, super powerful, yet surprisingly stable groups and organizations. There's the numerous hero agencies, the Public Safety Commission, the Police Force, the League of Villains, the Shie Hissaikai, and the Racists. Yes, there are canonically groups of racists in the My Hero world. Get woke, you basic fuck! But out of all of these groups, there are none that are more diverse or as well put together than the Meta Liberation Army. Now, a lot of you may be wondering, who in Todoroki's sexy exhale is that? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to explain in this video as I give you a full breakdown on everything you need to know about the Meta Liberation Army, or the MLA for short. But be warned, there are some manga spoilers sprinkled throughout, so if you want to remain a pure and holy anime-only fan, I recommend clicking away now, potentially to one of my other great videos. But if you're willing to take that leap into the utter heresy of manga madness, then stick around and prepare to have your mind blown. Also, don't forget to Detroit smash that like button and slide into that subscribe button's DMs to hit that notification bell. So, the Meta Liberation Army, similar to the League of Villains, is a powerful villain organization that exists within the My Hero universe. Now, the two villain groups actually have quite a few similarities. Both want to change hero society, both will do anything in their power to create that change, and both organizations have crazy, beautiful women who possess obsessive and compulsive personalities. Must be some sort of villain law to have at least one of them in your group. However, unlike their notorious, bombastic, edgelordy counterparts, the MLA isn't a very well-known organization in the modern day. And this is by choice. You see, the Meta Liberation Army is actually a secret society run by some of Japan's wealthiest and most powerful entrepreneurs, with their leading members being a politician, a media publisher, a tech company board member, and even a CEO. Their main goal is to create a world where people can use quirks freely without any sort of regulations. So basically, they just want to create a world where you don't have to be a hero to use your quirk, which, to be honest, I can kinda get behind. Imagine having a super badass power like super speed, but you aren't legally allowed to use it. It would majorly suck, especially when you got assholes like this guy running around. He just points at things, why is he allowed to use his power? Now, while the Meta Liberation Army isn't as publicly well known as other notorious villain groups, it's actually one of the oldest criminal organizations in the My Hero world, with its inception taking place during the era of chaos, a time when discrimination against people who possessed quirks was the norm, and when quirk regulations and restrictions were first being introduced. The organization was founded and led by a man named Chikara Yotsubashi, who believed that the free use of quirks was a basic human right. And he set up the MLA to fight against society's growing restrictions and regulations on the usage of meta abilities. Now, Chikara's beliefs on quirk usage and meta abilities didn't just stem from nowhere. They were actually a byproduct of his upbringing and his terrible childhood. You see, Chikara was one of the few children born with a quirk during the peak of the era of chaos. This resulted in him being abused and treated with disdain by his peers for the majority of his life. However, despite being viewed as a monster or freak by the masses because of his powers, Chikara's mother loved her son dearly, and she actively spoke out and fought against the discrimination her son was facing, claiming that his powers were nothing more than just another one of his quirks, coining the term quirk to describe any meta-human ability. That's right, Chikara's mother was the very first person to call the superpowers in the My Hero world quirks, and it's because of her that the world calls them that to this day. This has also led to many people referring to Chikara's mother as the Mother of Quirks. Thank God she didn't call them something stupid like supabilities or foibles. But Mr. Lunchtime, foibles is a real word. Shut up, Dave. Unfortunately for Chikara's mother, while she will always be remembered as a historical figure, like many martyrs before her, she was very much hated in her time, with her untimely death coming at the hands of an anti-Quirk faction, who murdered her for her constant outcries for Quirk user rights. This got oddly dark. Chikara's mother's murder was the catalyst and first stepping stone for the formation of the Meta Liberation Army, with Chikara wanting to create the world his late mother so desperately fought and died for. It's honestly quite a sympathetic cause. Once the MLA had been established, Chikara decided to work under an alias, calling himself Destro, which in typical My Hero fashion is short for Destroy the Status Quo. Also, he is not to be confused with the G.I. Joe villain of the same name. Remember kids, knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe! On the topic of knowing, ironically, we actually don't know that much about Destro's work and life with the Meta Liberation Army. We know he founded it, they fought against the government for years, and eventually a majority of the organization's key members were arrested and the MLA was disbanded. Which is pretty strange considering Destro's notoriety in current time My Hero has been compared to that of the king of villainy, Ballsack Boy. I mean all for one. However, Destro's and the MLA's real infamy might have only sprouted post-mortem, as once Destro was institutionalized, arrested and living his life behind bars, he wrote an autobiographical book titled The Meta Liberation War, and shortly after finishing said book, he took his own life. Wait, what? I thought this was happy-go-lucky My Hero Academia, all about kids going to school to become superheroes, and they're just throwing this shit in mid-story? God damn! Now this autobiographical book exposes and promotes Destro's idea of fighting against the government's control over quirks, and since its first publication, it has been reprinted numerous times, constantly finding itself in the front of bookstores all over Japan, even in the modern day, which we'll soon learn isn't just by chance. Most citizens see the book as nothing more than propaganda trying to justify the terrorist acts of the Meta Liberation Army. Despite this, however, the book still has and continues to influence the opinions of a great number of people, turning some readers into Meta Liberation sympathizers, which is exactly what this propaganda book wants to happen. You see, while this book is autobiographical in nature, there are a number of very important details that have been omitted from it on purpose. Two prime examples being, 1. Destro had a secret love child, and 2. The Meta Liberation Army isn't as disbanded as the public would believe. Unbeknownst to the world, while many of the MLA's higher-ups were captured and arrested alongside Destro during the organization's supposed end, there were a number of members who escaped the iron fist of the law, and managed to keep their association with the group a secret. And after Destro pulled off an Epstein, my god, I still can't believe that's fucking canon, these secret members adopted his son and only heir, Rikiya Yotsubashi, and they hid his origin and real heritage from the world. With Destro's only descendant in their custody and the MLA's Grand Commander 6 feet under, the organization's last remaining members focused all of their efforts into grooming the young Rikiya into being the next Destro, hoping that one day he could succeed where they failed, and that he could restore the Meta Liberation Army back to their former glory. Talk about having your destiny thrust upon you. But surprisingly enough, young Rikiya took his destiny in his stride, growing up to become his father's ideal successor, taking on the alias Re-Destro in honor of his late papa and making the MLA more powerful than it ever was before. Now you may be wondering, how the hell did the biological son of one of the world's most notorious terrorists re-establish his father's old terrorist organization while not only calling said organization the exact same name, but also referring to himself as the new version of his dad's supervillain alias? And the answer is money. Rather than making a bombastic re-emergence into the public eye declaring that the MLA is back and booming baby, Re-Destro decided that he would take a new approach to the war on quirk regulations, choosing to primarily focus on using subliminal propaganda. Basically, while the League is all about big displays of power and showing off, the Meta Liberation Army is playing the slow game, almost working like a cult to get people to join their cause in secret. Re-Destro is able to do all of this through his company Detnerat, which is Japan's #1 quirk support item manufacturer, and with the assistance of his fellow higher-up Meta Liberation Army companions. In the modern Meta Liberation Army, there are 5 key leaders, each being a major figure in Japan's corporate and political fields, giving the army a great deal of social influence that goes unnoticed by the government. These 5 members are Rikiya Yotsubashi, codename Re-Destro, the CEO of Detnerat Corporation; Chitose Kizuki, codename Curious, the executive director of Shueisha Publishing, ballsy move making Shueisha the villains in your story, Horikoshi; Koku Hanabata, codename Trumpet, a well-known politician who is the leader of the Hearts and Minds political party; Tomoyasu Chikazoku, codename Skeptic, a board member for Feel Good Inc. Yes, that is 100% a Gorillaz reference, by the way; and Geten, a.k.a. Iceman. He's just the dude with a really powerful ice quirk. What? You gotta have an enforcer in the group. Together, these wealthy and powerful figures have worked in the shadows to spread and promote the MLA's ideals through each of their respective mediums. Re-Destro uses his power as the CEO of Detnerat. Fun fact, Detnerat spelled backwards, replacing the R with an L spells talented, to make advanced quirk enhancing support items for the members of the MLA. To test these support items out, Re-Destro first sells them on the black market to villains, so he can see how well they perform out in real combat. And once he's received all of the data he needs after the villain uses the item, or if the villain gets defeated, the support item is set to self-destruct. The reason for this is to hide any evidence of Detnerat and subsequently the MLA's involvement with the production of quirk-enhancing items. Chitose Kizuki, aka Curious, uses her position in Shueisha Publishing to easily gather information on anyone or anything without arousing suspicion from the government. And she also has a strong influence over the news updates her company distributes to the public, being able to alter and manipulate them to better suit her cause. She also uses her executive powers to keep making reprints and republishing Destro's autobiography, which is why it's still in circulation and in the front of bookstores in modern times. Hey, gotta keep pushing that manifesto in some way. Curious got her codename for being, well, curious, as she is seen to have an obsessive compulsive disorder when it comes to fulfilling her journalistic duties and finding out every teensy tiny bit of information for her next story. Koku Hanabata, aka Trumpet, uses his status as the head of the Hearts and Minds party to influence Japan's government and society itself. As the head of a political party, he has a significant level of influence in every decision the government makes, giving the MLA not only insider information on the government's plans, but also giving them a hand in whether or not those plans are actually executed. Trumpet, while not canonically specified, probably got his codename due to his quirk, Insight, which lines his voice with an electromagnetic pulse that significantly enhances the physical and mental state of anyone who hears his voice and considers him to be a worthy leader. Basically, if you believe Trumpet is a great leader and he speaks to you, you get stronger both in body and mind. And the louder Trumpet speaks, the more powerful the quirk becomes. So it kinda makes sense that he's called Trumpet. Tomoyasu Chikazoku, aka Skeptic, uses his position as a board member of Feel Good Inc. to utilize the company's satellites and electronic communication devices to pinpoint the location of any person he desires, as well as to tap any and all communication devices around Japan. Basically, he's Mark Zuckerberg. If you leave any electronic footprint, he's got your name, details, date of birth, mother's maiden name, social security number, PPS, height, weight, favorite food, fetishes, internet history, incognito history, dog's name, dad's dog's name, you name it. Personality-wise, Skeptic is very similar to the supervillain the Riddler from DC Comics, meaning that he is extremely intelligent and is a fantastic tactician. However, he is annoyingly arrogant about his level of intelligence, often often looking down on and berating people who can't figure things out immediately from minimal details and without an explanation. Plus, he also has that whole childish I'm too smart to lose mentality, often losing his cool when things don't go his way, causing him to give up an extremely advantageous position in the heat of the moment. We all make mistakes in the heat of passion, Jimbo. Together, these four leaders and Geten, who is just there to beat the shit out of anyone acting sus, make up one of, if not the most powerful political and social organizations the My Hero world has ever seen. I mean, they essentially own the media and news, control all of Japan's electronic communication services, have a big hand in government decisions, and they develop their own super advanced quirk-enhancing support items. Oh, and I forgot to mention that since the modern MLA's inception, they have recruited over 100,000 loyal members who are 100% willing to put their lives on the line for the cause. So, not only do they have massive political and social power, they have an ungodly amount of manpower. So yeah, they're pretty fucking powerful. And that, ladies and gentlemen, and those of an unspecified gender, is everything you really need to know about the Meta Liberation Army. From its original inception and run in the early era of Quirks, all the way to its current standing as probably the most powerful and secret villain organization in the My Hero world. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and comment your thoughts and opinions about the MLA below. Do you think they're the best group of villains in My Hero to date? Or are you more of an LOV type of person? If you'd like to see more content like this, don't forget to Detroit smash that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Plus Ultra.